Hi there, it's Nicole for Waffle Flower, and today I've got this card featuring the most adorable Lil Painters stamps and coordinating dies, brand new for the June 2018 release. And I'm going to combine this with some fantastic greetings from the Rainbows stamp set that was also released fairly recently. It's not from the June release, but it is within the last couple months. And then the previously released Books and Coffee has some critters that are very similar to the cute little mice and chicks that are in Lil Painters. And I thought it would be fun to implement one of the bunnies from Books and Coffee into my card today. I'm starting with a piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock that I am inking a little picked raspberry and squeezed lemonade distress inks. And I'm just going to get those a nice blend. I wanted a really soft background, and I also didn't want it to go clear to the edges of the paper. Then I'm going to spritz it with water from a distress sprayer to mute it just a little bit more. I want it to be really, really pale. Off camera, I went ahead and stamped the images from Little Painters. This is an amazing stamp set full of paint brushes and all kinds of paint palette, paint tubes, and then the cute little critters. I think that this could be used in so many different ways. It's an awesome stamp set. I have listed the colors of Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers I'm using across the top of the screen. The images were stamped on Bristol Smooth cardstock, which is what I prefer to use for Zig Clean Color Real Brush marker coloring. In fact, you can probably tell how smooth these markers blend on this paper. So much fun. I purposely am coloring the tips of my paintbrushes in rainbow color because it really goes with the sentiments that I want to use here today, and I wanted my greetings, or my paintbrushes rather, to be very rainbow, very bright, very, very colorful. I'm keeping the handles of my brushes and any of the other hardware to neutrals, browns, and grays. And then everything else is a lot of my favorite color combinations from Zig. So if you wonder which markers I recommend or use the most, they will be the colors listed across the top of the screen because these are my favorite marker colors. I tend to gravitate towards these bright colors plus some of the neutrals for coloring critters and things. These are also my favorite color combinations. What is awesome about these little critters is they appear to be kind of sticking out from the side. So there's lots and lots of ways to use these. You can use them with lots of different stamp sets. But I thought it would be fun to tuck them kind of around the paint brushes like they're peering around. Really, really cute. I did all of my coloring at once, with the exception of the bunny that I'm going to use from Books and Coffee. I had that set out, and it really wasn't until I started putting my whole card together that I decided, yes, I really did want to use him. I wasn't exactly sure how much room everything was going to take across the bottom of the card. I'd laid it out prior to stamping and coloring, but I just wasn't sure until I got to that point. So here are my paint brushes. I think I used all but one of the paint brushes from Little Painters. The mice I'm going to color in here. I switched up one of the grays I used for coloring the gray part of the brushes and switched to pale gray instead of light gray for the little mouse. Then we're going to color in the paint tube. I did use two paint tubes. I originally only stamped and colored this one, so off camera I stamped another one. But aren't these fun? I think the whole stamp set is just really great, especially for us card makers and things who typically kind of have paintbrushes and all of this kind of stuff out on our craft desks. I just think it's a really fun set to make cards to send to our friends. It would be great for anyone. I think the sentiments from the Rainbow stamp set would work for lots of different occasions as well. I think these little bird or chick images could be either one. I kind of made mine more chicks because of the yellow color combination I used here, but I think you could just switch up the coloring to make them work for whatever. Now, once I have everything stamped and colored, I die cut them with the coordinating dies. And I'm just trimming up my critters to fit. I like to lay everything out before I commit to gluing it down, especially because today I decided to use liquid glue, which I don't normally do because it's not very forgiving, but I really wanted to make sure that everything was exactly where I wanted it to go before I committed to gluing it. And I did switch up a few things as I went, but this gives me a good idea. The other thing that's really important here is I need to figure out where to put my sentiment. And I wanted to make sure I left enough room, so laying out my images ahead of time gives me a good idea. I want to do my stamping before I glue anything down so that it doesn't hinder the stamping of my greetings. So I'm just going to grab the rest of my little images here. I'm just trimming out. These do partial die cuts of the critters, so I want to just get those trimmed out and put where I want them to go. And then I'm going to grab my MISTI and the Rainbows greeting stamp set and lay out my greetings. I love that you can mix and match these to really say what you want to say. I think it would also be fun to use the Rainbows word die in place of the Rainbow stamp if you wanted to as well. I'm going to stamp the 2 lines of text that go around the word rainbows with black ink first. And then I'm going to take the word rainbows and stamp that with the picked raspberry distress ink. I don't normally stamp my greetings with this, but I wanted it to kind of be tone on tone here. And because I'm using the MISTI, I can stamp it one on top of another really easily. And I wanted that word rainbows to be in a brighter color. Now I'm going to start gluing my paintbrushes. I did start with my green paintbrush, which is in the center of my little grouping. And I'm going to start gluing and tucking the paintbrushes and these critters down near the bottom of my card, so that it appears that they're all just kind of sticking up. This is a little snippet or piece of the entire picture. And the little critters that peek around are just so cute. They really add a whimsical touch to the card design. The 2 paint tubes I'm going to kind of have coming in from both sides. One more up in the upper right corner and then one coming in from the left, which I added off camera. I really felt like I needed a little something over on the left side of the card. That was really after I added my paint splotches with Nuvo crystal drops. So that was more of a last minute little thing. One of those things as you look at your card as you're finishing up and you think maybe you need something else to really kind of round it out and complete it. I even have the little chick and the bunny on each side. They kind of bookend the paintbrushes. They are purposely hanging off the sides so that I can trim those up too. It just grounds the whole design. So this is that little bunny that I was talking about from Books and Coffee that really complements and coordinates well with these little critters. You can even take these critters from Little Painters and use them with the little books and stack of books and coffee mugs and things from Books and Coffee if you wanted to. I think that would be really fun as well. Very similar in design and style. The same artist did these. These are Big Bear and Bird, which is one of my favorite collections from Waffle Flower. I love it. Now, once the glue has dried, I'm going to take my big Tonic scissors. These are my Tim Holtz scissors here, and just snip off anything hanging off the edge of my panel. And look how cute that is. Now, that white space in between the greeting and the images is the perfect place to fill in with what I'm calling paint splatters. And I'm purposely taking Nuvo crystal drops in similar colors to the paint brushes and adding droplets of this all over. I'm using carnation pink, red berry, dandelion yellow, apple green, Caribbean ocean, midnight blue, and crushed grape. And some of the colors, I know I've had several people mention that some of them don't spread as easily as others. This is true, and you can see I'm squeezing out some for a couple of my colors that just weren't coming out very well. I often use a straight pen too to unclog if some of the colors tend to not want to come out, because you don't want to squeeze them over your project and have them squirt everywhere. I tend to like to maybe make a little practice drop on a scrap piece of paper anyway, so that I don't get a splatter all over my project, because that has happened in the past and that is so disappointing. I'm going to finish with some crystal glaze over that little paint splatter on that one paint tube. Place this panel on a white top fold card base, and this fun, bright, rainbow Little Painters card is all finished. Thanks for joining me today for this card featuring new stamps and dies from Waffle Flower's June 2018 release. The supplies I used to create my card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more cards featuring Waffle Flower that you might be interested in. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll catch you next time.